Hiya, it's Amanda here from Lolly Lulu Crafts, and today we're going to be making a Christmas card from the Elegant Christmas Hunkydory collection. This is one that came out last year, I believe, and this particular sheet is called Beautiful Baubles, and as you can see it really is absolutely gorgeous. And then I picked up the complimentary piece of cardstock that was in the same kit, so that's to go with that. Then I have got a card base that came from the Hunkydory card bases box that I just recently showed you that I got, that had all the different shaped card bases in pre-made. But as I said at the time, I did promise that I would try to go outside my comfort zone and use those shaped card bases a lot more. Now technically this one I do quite a lot myself, but it was in the box, so I thought, well, maybe I can get away with it. So what we've got is an 8x8 card base, and if you don't have a pre-scored, pre-made, whatever you want to call it, 8x8 card base, if you go across to the corresponding blog post with this video, I will pop in there my easy peasy card base video, which will show you how to make an 8x8, in fact any size card base, really easily. Okay, so let's get cracking with this card. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is make the front of my card from this piece of cardstock. Now I'm not going to be just putting it down flat, so we need to just work out exactly what position I want my pattern to be, because you know I like it to be more evenly spread out. So I'm going to mark the front because it's quite a symmetrical pattern. I want to mark the front to be sure that the pieces of the pattern end evenly each side of the card. So looking at this, if I was putting this right to the edge of my card base, for example, it would finish here, which would be kind of halfway through, and then we'd have a faded piece this side because it's faded off at the edge, and then a really strong half a bow on this side. And I just personally don't think that would look so nice, especially as what I'm going to be doing with the front is trying to make a feature of this cardstock, so we need to make sure it's nice and evenly spaced. So looking at that, I reckon it's about there, so I'm going to mark here and I'm going to mark here, and then we're going to cut that. So now if you look at my card, you can see that the two edges of my pattern, upside down, are roughly even, so it will look much nicer when you put it on the card. And I know it means that you take a little bit off the edge there and it's a bit of a waste, but I'd rather it looked even and had a, especially on this because it's going to be a feature of the card, so I think it's quite important to make that look right. Okay, so I'm just going to erase that mark there because obviously that was a pencil mark that we don't want there now, so we'll just get rid of that. And now we need to do exactly the same but top to bottom. So again, just looking at this, it's pretty good already. It's already starting pretty evenly, so if we take roughly the same amount off top and bottom, and it looks, if we measure this, it is 8 1/4. So if I take 1/8 of an inch off the top and 1/8 of an inch off the bottom, that should just be nice and even. Okay, so just checking that that fits nicely, because it's always easy to get these things slightly wrong, and that is going to be a perfect fit. So I've got these dies from Tonic, and this is the Trellis Square, and they're absolutely stunningly gorgeous. And I'm going to put through both the outside edge, because what it does is it gives you the trellis, so that could cut just into your card without cutting it out. It just cuts the trellis part out. But if you want to cut a hole, as it were, you can put the other piece around the edge and it will cut an actual hole through your card. Put my cutting plate down, put my piece of card down because we need my die in the middle, so I think what we'll have to do is just do it like this. Actually, I want it to cut down into the pattern rather than away, and then what I want is to make sure as best as possible that the pattern is even all the way around the edge, so that looks about right. And then we'll put my outside die on. Okay, so I've just taped that down, so now we're just going to put my base plate on top and then pop that through the grand caliber. Okay, and that's all cut through now, and it's just the next thing is just to hope that, give it a bit of a tap, get some of the pieces out, but it's to hope that this little tape hasn't damaged my, nope, so far so good. I was worried that it would be too sticky onto the cardstock and pull some off, so fingers crossed. And you need to stick it down in place because otherwise you'll never get it to stay still and you'll end up with pieces all over the place. Okay, so we grab that. And as you can see, it just falls out. They're really good dies. I've not used tonic. These are sort of the first set of tonics that I've had, and I'm really impressed, really, to be honest. And as you can see, all the little bits are just popping out. You see it came out nice and easy, just at the sides, the little holes. And how beautiful is that? Isn't that gorgeous? Okay, so, and then this outside piece we do still want as well, and that would be that way up actually, and it's left a lovely little edge to it, so we're going to keep those. Okay, so now I'm going to take my card base, and I've got my outside piece, and I need to line up, and I want to measure up rather with my pencil and mark where I want to put this inside die again, because that looks like that'll be okay. So now we need to run that through, obviously only one side though, we don't want to go all the way through, and we're going to put that through, but not this piece, we're only doing the actual lattice work then on this one. So now we're going to run that through. Now the problem we're going to have is obviously turning it around to get the other two sides done, so we may just have to run it through a few times. Okay, so I just twisted the card around and then I folded that edge up over the cutting plate, so I'm just going to hope that will go through, because obviously that's now a bit thicker, but those side pieces just weren't cutting. Okay, so we got a little bit crumply and it got a little bit of marks on it, so it must have had some marks on the rollers as it went through, but that doesn't really matter because I would always be, on a big card like this, I would always be putting a back to the card, so I'm not too worried about that. And it did rather bend it, but again, the same thing, I will be putting something on the inside and on the back, so not too worried about that. If you were doing it my easy peasy card way, I would suggest that before you put the two halves together, this would be, you would do this stage first, because that would make it a lot easier. Okay, and that has now finally cut through. Now the next thing is to hope that it all matches up. Okay. So now we need to just carefully peel this off, but again, if it tears the front a little bit, which it looks like it might, it's not a big deal because, as you know, we're okay. So I cut out some extra pieces so that I had a back and a front and some inside pieces just to add the stability, so I'm going to pop those down. So I'm going to start with the back piece, which is this gorgeous colour, from peachy colour from Hunkydory, and we're going to just use double-sided tape here, and I've cut them to 8 by 8, So this is for my back of my card, and this will just straighten up where it went a bit wonky, and also just cover up any marks. I always do like on the 8x8 cards to add that extra layer on the back anyway, because I think you put so much on the front, and because it's 8x8 you're putting quite a lot of weight down, and I think by adding that extra cardstock on the back it just helps make it be a bit stronger. And then we're going to do the same on the inside, but I've chosen this lovely gold colour because that's obviously going to be showing through those holes at the front, so I want it to be nice and complementary to what we've got going on the front. So that's the back piece done now, so we've got a nice colour on the back and then the inside back. Okay, then I cut out, using the dies, I cut out a piece of card which I used the two just square plain parts of the die, so the outside edges of our lattice, and just cut that out there. And obviously I don't need this piece, I just want these two pieces, so that again it's just adding a nice colour to the inside here, but also just an extra bit of strength on that inside piece there. So I've just got some double-sided tape on that as well, like so, and that looks nice. There we go, and that's going to fold over fine. We're just going to crease that with our bone folder just to make that nice and sharp. And now we're on to the front. So what we want is this piece to go down flat, so we've got double-sided tape on the inside of that, and then on the lattice work I'm going to use my Cosmic Shimmer to hold that in place. Now what I want to do is just fold this open, just in case any of the Cosmic Shimmer that I'm going to put on the lattice goes through onto the back of the card, because that would be not a good. So I'm mostly going to just go around the edge and just put a tiny bit. There we go. And then making sure it's the right way up, because there is a way up with this. We're going to line the lattice work up first, because obviously that's the most important bit. And there we go. And then I'm just going to get my little roller, the one that I always keep for this job, and just roll to make sure that it's nice and firmly down. I find that easier than with my fingers. Okay, that's good. Now, rather sillily, I put double-sided tape on the back of this, and I didn't need to because that needs to be raised up. Okay, so I've put pin flare all across the back of my piece here, so just making sure that it's the right way up, which it is. We're going to pop that down. I'm going to actually fold this back over so I can see the edge properly, and then we're going to pop this down onto our front here so that it's raised up like so. I don't want to squish it down too much. There we go. So we've just got a slight raising up there of the front. So now what we want to do is put the baubles in place, and what I've done for that is I'm going to use the gorgeous stripe, sort of sticker stripe things that I've got from Pinflair, and I'm going to attach those to some strips of the cardstock, and I'm going to work out the length that I need those to be, because they're going to be like the hanging down bits, the chain or whatever, the ribbon, whatever you want it to be, of my baubles. Okay, so now we're going to put our baubles on the card. So I'm going to pick out the 3 that I want. And I'm going to have there's 3 different ones here. So you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but two of each. Oops, I picked out 2 the same there. There's 2 of each design. So I'm just going to grab the 3 designs. And I've cut some strips of the gold Hunkydory cardstock, and they're going to act as like my ribbon sort of chainy part, but I'm going to be sticking these lovely pin flare stickers over the top of them to give it that more chained kind of look, so it just looks a little bit more in keeping. But first we want to just work out exactly where we want these. So something like that, I would think. That looks good to me already, that's great. So then all we need to do is sort out our little chainy pieces, because they're going to have to go underneath. So I think what I'll do is I'll stick one of my stickers on, and then we can chop it up as we go, as we need it. So just grabbing one of these and then sticking it down. So just holding the card and then putting the sticker down, holding it each end so that it goes on straight. There we go. So that's going to act as our little chainy pieces. So now, whoops, I forgot that wet pin flare, I just squashed it down. So now we need to pop this in first so that we can put our baubles over the top, because that's going to work easier. So we're just going to get some scissors and we're going to cut these to length, and then we can just tuck them underneath the top piece there. So that one, we want it to go underneath the bauble and underneath the bit at the top, so that's going to go to about there, like so. And then this one about there. And that one, now we may have to adjust these slightly, but that's just a rough idea. So that's going to be roughly like that. Obviously they're going to be underneath. Now because the lattice, it's going to show through the other side, I'm going to add a piece of this gold cardstock to the back of each of those before we stick them down, just so that we can not see that horrible white through, but it will actually look nicely finished on the back. Stick that down like so, take off the excess, and then all I'm going to do is just take this piece here and I'm going to judge, and I need just a little bit of adhesive down this end, and this piece will just pop underneath anyway with the glue gels there, so that shouldn't be a problem, although we'll just put a tiny bit of adhesive there anyway. So then I'm just going to lift that bauble down to there a little bit and slide my little piece underneath my bit there, and then just stick it down, and then that bit will go like so, and then we'll do the next one, and again just taking my tape pen, running it along the back, and as it goes under I can feel it going into the glue gel, so I'm just taking it to the edge just before that lattice work there, and that will make that one sit just about so, and then just sticking that down. So there we go. And then if we look on the back, you can now see, hopefully, that what you've got showing through is the gold, so that looks just a little bit nicer. Okay, so now we're going to take our little pop dots that I've got, and they're nice and big fat ones, and we're going to pop those on the back of our baubles here. and we're going to do them at different heights as well. So you're going to have one at single height, and move that over a bit, that's better. And then I've got a little half one here, so I'll pop him up there. Yeah, so we're going to do some at the single height and some at one at a double height or something like that, just again to give more dimension. And I think I'll put the pop dots on all of them before I stick them down, so I know what I'm doing with what. So now just grabbing our little baubles, making sure we're putting them in the right order. So this one down here. I'm not pushing it down yet, I'm just putting them lightly in position so that once I'm happy with all three, I can then push them down. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. I'm not so sure I'm happy with this one. Let's push him over just a little. Still not quite. That's better. Happy with that, so let's push those down, and you can see that we've got the different heights, and I think, well, hopefully you can see, there we go, so you can see the different heights there, and I think that gives it a really nice bit of dimension. So that's our baubles done. I think they look really cute. I'm pleased with how they're coming out, and I love this lattice work. See, that originally I wasn't going to do. I was just looking for a die that had the square to make the aperture, and I found that one for that aperture there, and that's all I was going to do. But then when I was looking, I thought that it would make such a nice extra to have that lattice on it, so that's why we ended up with the lattice. Okay, so let's put our sentiment on, and we've got the sentiment here in our sheet, so I'm just going to grab that out, and I'm just going to put that in that bottom corner there, and I'm just going to use a bit of tape pen and just pop it down like so, not pushing too hard because I just remembered that we've still got the glue gel under there, although it seems to set pretty good. So there we go. Okay, so that's the card done. I hope you've enjoyed making it with me. I think it looks really great. I'm really pleased with it, so, and I hope you like it too. Do leave me a comment. I love to hear what you think. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.